to invite Larson.
Wow, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. A little emotional after that. So I think I have a little bit of time today to tell you, I guess it would be good to start, I should say, at the beginning, and tell you a little bit about myself and my career, because I know most of you have no idea who I am. I actually got my start in strength and conditioning back in 1999. After getting my master's degree, I went and got my first job at a place called Velocity Sports Performance, which specialized in training young athletes. We made most of our money training 8 years old up to 18 years old. And we had a few professional athletes, we had a few adults, we had a few elite athletes, but our paychecks came from 8 to 18-year-olds. We trained them a lot like professional athletes. We taught them to Olympic lift. We made them do the drills that were popular at the time. And after, I was at this job for 12 years. And my center, and I'm so glad this doesn't keep playing because this gets worse. And after 12 years, we were one center in a network of 75 centers across the United States. And after 8 years, my center had become the most powerful in the network, and we took over the network. My boss became the CEO of the network, I became the director of performance for the whole network, and that's why my job became a lot of programming for young athletes, and then mostly getting up in front of audiences like you. And I was an expert on the art of training young athletes. How to control small groups of 8-year-olds so that they leave a workout sweaty, smart, knowing a little bit more about acceleration mechanics or lifting weights. When their parents ask them, did you learn anything today? They should be able to answer. The art of making them exhausted but also smiling all the time. In my center, we had like a silent competition to be the coach that afterward had kids going, Mom, can you make sure I'm with Coach Red again next week? That's what we wanted. We wanted to be the one that every kid wanted to go to every time. And that was my identity. And that's what I thought I'd be doing forever and ever. But then I got an opportunity to go to China. Back in 2012, this group called Athletes Performance, that's now Exos, hired me and a team of 4 physiotherapists and 4 other strength coaches to go to China and help prepare their gold medal factories for the London Olympics. So among us, we worked with all of China's best sports, from shooting, archery, gymnastics, judo, table tennis, diving, everything you can imagine. And at that time, after having worked for 12 years in working with all different sports and all different athletes, this really tested me. This was super fun, honestly, because all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, how do I make a table tennis player, not a table tennis player, the 3 best table tennis players on planet Earth quicker in their reaction time? Like, oh my God, how do I make gymnasts with multiple gold medals better at holding iron crosses? It was so much fun to be able to kind of break down and analyze new sports and and also using a lot of the stuff that I had learned training younger athletes. So, everybody in this picture was there for the first year. We started in 2011, but the picture was taken in 2012. But after the London Olympics in 2012, nobody would go back to China. Like, who's been to China? A lot of people, a couple people. It's a rough place to be for a long amount of time. Just the food alone is terrible, and so it's a pretty harsh place to have to live if you're not accustomed to the culture. But for whatever reason, I was about to say loved it. That's not true. I liked it. I love the adventure of it. I'm a storyteller. Every day you get 100 new stories to tell. Every meal you get another story to tell of, oh my God, I can't believe they serve eyeballs at lunch, and I can't believe I ate it because I was so freaking hungry. And And so I went back for another year, and then that became another year, and eventually I stayed for 7 years. And but midway through, I stopped working for Exos, and I got hired just by the women's volleyball team in China. Now, and when I got hired in 2015, we got lucky. I don't know if we got lucky, but it was good timing for me because the Chinese volleyball team is a very important team in China. I have a slide about this in a second. But when we ended up winning the World Cup in 2015, it was only the second medal, gold medal, first place medal, whatever, for a team sport in China ever. So no men's team sport, no women's team sport have ever won anything for China except for women's volleyball. China is really smart. The Chinese Olympic Committee is really smart. All they care about is gold medals and the amount of gold medals. And so if they have $5 million, giving $5 million to the diving team that could get them 11 gold medals is a much better use of $5 million than giving that $5 million to basketball, which would get them 1 medal if everything went well. So it's all calculated. So they only give money to individual sports. And they give more money to women's sports than men's because they're hoping the rest of the world doesn't care about women's sports as much. So they just want medals, which is really, really smart. It just so happens that the women's volleyball team is just one exception because they accidentally won a medal back in the '84 Olympics. They won a gold medal in '84, and then that was such a surprise that they became just the biggest thing. Since then I went to the Netherlands, and now I'm in Germany. But I'll tell you, Team China, when we won, so we ended up winning the gold medal in Rio. After we won the gold medal, to give you an idea of how popular my team is, every girl on my team got a bonus, of course, right? In the U.S., when you win a gold medal, you get a bonus. You get $25,000 US. So, pretty good. Every girl on my team, all 14 girls, got $2.7 million. Yeah, $2.7 million. All got BMW X5s as a thank you from the team. In 2020, the most popular movie in China is the story of our team, starring one of the biggest stars in China. She is the actress that played Mulan in the movie Mulan, right? That came out the same year and was the second most popular. This is a picture of the actor that plays me in the movie. There's somebody that plays me in a movie. That is the most popular movie in the most populous country on the planet. How crazy is that? So that gives you an idea of what this sport means to China. And so I really quickly went from being the youth performance art of coaching young athletes guy to being the China guy. So all anybody wanted me to talk about was how I got along in the culture of China, how I can assimilate cultures pretty well, get new coaches to like me, not ruffle too many feathers doing my job. And then that all changed after 1 week of volleyball over in Italy. And so I've been warming teams up the same way for years and years and years. I don't think anything of it. We go to the Olympic qualifying tournament in Italy. We play 5 matches over 7 days. And in that time, camera crews, just like we have here, are filming everything. But I don't really notice. And then at the end of the week, they post this video of a mashup of all of little clips of my warm-ups. And it goes crazy. So, well, you can probably hear it. The speakers on my phone, on my laptop are not great, but the music makes it. Can you imagine the Herculean task of me trying to get my street credibility back after the first 2 pages of your Google results are of you dancing? Since then, it's actually been kind of a blessing. I mean, I'm talking to you guys today probably because of this stupid video that shows, I'll show you in later slides, what a tiny percentage of the actual warm-up, everything you just saw is. But it certainly is popular. Like, it's nice when the crowds show up early just to see a warm-up. And by the way, now, every time I go to a tournament, not every, but a lot of the times I go to a tournament, on the first day, some dude that's wearing crazy clothing will come up and be like, "Hey, I'm the DJ of the tournament. What music do you like? What can I do to make this better for you?" And the little camera crews will follow around. But the nice thing about this, it's a little bit of I would call it bait and switch, or a Trojan horse, because this just opens a conversation that maybe we don't need to take warm-up as seriously or keep doing the same things we've always done just because we've always done them, because that's what every textbook says should be done, this small little library of activities. When in fact, thinking outside the box, you can, it's pretty easy to justify adding more emotion and more fun to warm-ups to achieve everything that your maybe not yours, I don't mean to single you out, you're probably maybe even better at this than I am, but what most warm-ups I see are trying to do. So I created this presentation which is about weaponizing your warm-up. And it's not about the competition warm-up you saw there. That's a very distinct thing that we'll talk about later. The way I warm my team ups before we go to war in our competition is a different style because it has to be a different mindset. So what I really care about is how to warm my athletes up before a practice, a typical practice. Because I do think, in all of my years traveling to now working in 4 different countries and seeing hundreds of different great coaches, is that most of them very much underutilize that time that you have with your athletes before training. And when I was in Australia a couple weeks ago giving talks like this, they showed me this chart. They asked all of the coaches across the Australian Institute of Sport and athletes to come up with what the coach of the future should be. And not once, but twice, they put being adaptive to change. Being adaptive to change they didn't even you change the words. They said it twice. It's just, they really, really want you to start thinking differently and broadening the scope of what you are doing. Because, like I said, when I started working at Velocity Sports Performance and when I went to Exos, we had what I thought at the time, what we thought at the time was a very advanced, cutting-edge, state-of-the-art, best practice warm-up. Everybody, when the athletes came in, all the foam rollers and the balls would be out, and we'd make them do soft tissue work for 5 minutes, and then we would make them do something to get warm, some sort of thermogenic. So they would do, it was a jumping jacks, or skips, or agility ladders, or slide boards, or crawls, and we did that kind of stuff. Then we got together and stretched. Then we put mini bands on them and made them do the same series of monster walks they've done a whole million of times, trying to activate muscles that were slowly getting sleepy. And then we would do some neural response drills where we'd be doing quick feet variations, forward back. And at the time that was very groundbreaking, very cool. But you also notice after a season of doing this, you start getting very zombie warm athletes that are not being very responsive. It is something that your athletes are just sleepwalking through rather than something that's actually leaving them engaged or excited. But, occasionally, we coaches would be so bored, if we were in a facility that had a basketball hoop. And this is what happened in my old job. We always had a basketball hoop in all of our facilities, and we decided on Fridays, instead of doing our standard warm-up, we would start by playing that basketball game knockout. You guys know what that is? That's where... Okay, all right. And that was going to be our Friday fun warm-up. And of course, very quickly, it became the most popular day of the week. Everybody wanted to train on Fridays because Friday was the day you got to play knockout. And every single other day, the kids would be like, Coach Red, I know it's not Friday. Any chance we can play knockout today? And you realize, like, okay, why am I not giving the athletes what they want? They still, all I have to do in a warm-up is get people warm. And so why am I doing this prescribed, the same skips and karaoke's to do that when we could be playing the game and still getting them sweaty, but in a way that's making them engaged and happy. And so when I stopped working for big companies that kind of dictate how you have to do your job, I said, okay, well now I'll just pick from a much bigger library. When all I have to do is get them warm, oh, all right, well then I can do any one of these things as long as it starts getting warm. And so with that opening up my world, it starts to also make the other members of my team happy. Because if I am doing corrective exercises, then I'm making my physio's job easier. If I am doing kind of sports-specific stuff, then my head coach wants to buy me a beer after practice. And so I'm not only doing it to make me happy, it's engaging my athletes because every day is different, but also my team is happy. My support staff, coworkers, and head coach seem to like me more. And so the way I started doing my job was I started thinking about warm-up very differently. It just had to tick a couple of boxes. First of all, will it make them warm? Second of all, will it help them play volleyball? Will it make my coach's life easier? Will it make my physio want to buy me a beer that night? And is it interesting? Are the athletes excited when they come in? I don't know if excited, but is it stimulating? Is it something they can't sleepwalk through? And then, is it timely? Which means, is it reacting to what is important to my coach or my athletes or my physio that day? If I'm doing my job well, then my Wednesday workout, my Wednesday warm-up incorporates something I saw the head coach yelling at the athletes about on Monday night or Tuesday night, but during practice. If I'm paying attention, then when he is annoyed that their crossover mechanics are too slow getting to the outside, then the next morning when I put bungee cords on everyone and we're doing crossover mechanics for speed, trying to get stronger, he is excited about me. He wants me to be his strength coach for the rest of his career. So that is what I mean by timely. Is it reactive? And so, because at the end of the day, it just needs to warm them up. Like that's the secret strength and conditioning coaches, all know. It just to keep people healthy, you just have to get warm. Now, what has blossomed in my head is what I said before, is that the warm-up is this unique spot where I can make all the members of my team happy, where everyone can be seen, where the coach's problems become my problems and I can address them during warm-up. I'm much more part of a team, where if my physio is pulling his hair out because he doesn't know why we're having patellar tendonitis, then I'm turning the next 7 warm-ups into patellar tendonitis prehab sessions until that problem goes away. And so it's kind of another Trojan horse of this presentation, that it's not just weaponizing your warm-ups, but it's also becoming kind of an agent of alignment, an architect of alignment. You get to be the person that brings people together and starts to be kind of a cohesive person on your team. One of the biggest compliments I get is that I've been called a glue guy, that I'm somebody that just makes a team kind of function well together. And I think part of that is that I use the warm-up to make people feel heard, to make people feel like they're not fighting these battles alone. I guess that's all I'll say about that. So the rest of this presentation is going to be a lot of videos explaining kind of how I go about constructing a warm-up and what my mindset goes to, and maybe some tricks and some tools, some cheat codes for you to think about maybe expanding what you do and being able to apply what I'm doing to your sport. And so with that, let's just start. This is kind of a key concept, is that a warm-up is whatever you need it to be. It shouldn't just be to get the athletes ready for what's ahead. It shouldn't just be like flossing your teeth, something that you know you need to do but you never look forward to. If your team is weak, then you might want to make your warm-ups look like mini strength sessions. This is just, we'll talk about kind of just movement puzzles and challenges, all designed to keep them exploring their athleticism. This is a time to fail. If your team is slow, boy, this is a terrible example. I got to take this out because they've been horrible. But yeah, if your team is slow, then you should make your warm-ups look like speed training sessions. It should look like what you do in tracks. You should be putting the timing gates out and racing all the time. At the beginning of the season, like right now, if they're weak, our warm-ups look like micro-dose mini weight training sessions. When we have bad shoulders, we just do a ton of shoulder rehab until those problems go away. If we have tight hips, we might play hacky sack, because it's more fun than just adding more hip stretches to my stuff. If we are suffering from bad reaction time, I use whatever stuff I can find in this Brazilian training hall to do better. I got a bunch of cheap reaction balls a year ago, and I just looked up online all the millions of ways we could play with them to make reaction time better. Our balance is bad. This is not an example I should have put in here. This is something I've done like once, a little balance bridge. This was after like 3 days of playing in a row. We just needed to smile. If my team's out of shape, the end of my training looks like work capacity sessions. Except I'm not going to make them suck. I'm going to gamify them, steal something from soccer players to make it more fun, to make them smile while they're working. Or, of course, if we just need to de-stress, we'll put a dance video up and have them get warm that way. And so, I'm hoping that you will open your mind. This might seem crazy to you right now. Maybe you're an S&C and you're thinking my head coach will never go for this. Just remember that I have worked for dozens of head coaches, and so far, all of them have gone for this idea. And we'll talk about why, because right now you're keying in on, the hacky sack and the dancing, and my team would never go for that. But think of it this other way, that would your coach be happier if you spent more time working on the stuff they care about or adding more strength to their day? Probably. Now, the reason, and here is the caveat to all this, is that, of course, it takes more effort, right? One of the reasons that everybody just keeps doing the same thing is that it's easier, right? When I had a smaller menu of options, I didn't have to write anything down. I didn't have to develop an enormous spreadsheet on my laptop of all of the different warm-up options. I do that now, because I actually think it is vitally important. I think that my team has a huge advantage over the teams we play because we're spending more time, because I have given myself more time for movement and strength and volleyball-specific skills that other strength and conditioning coaches just throw away doing the same 7 exercises and stretches over and over again. I also think that a reason coaches don't do this is that, and I was this coach. When I worked for Velocity, when I was working with younger athletes, part of the art of coaching those athletes was to try to make them look like a little military unit. You wanted all the parents who think that I can't handle their 9-year-old to see me out there being like, everyone balance on one foot. Good. Close your eyes for 3 seconds. Good, good, good. All right. Grab it. Shoulders back. Pull it up. Yeah, good. And now step. And I wanted them to look, I thought over-cueing was me being a great coach. And it didn't look messy. And as I've gotten older and started working with more and more elite athletes, my warm-ups look so much messier. that I will, if they can do something well, I'm racking my brain to make it harder so they start failing. So that they start falling all over each other. That is a culture switch. That on the court is where we are dialed in, feeling very confident, very good. But during warm-up is where I will give you jump rope variations until it's whipping you in the face. That we are going to dance because you suck at dancing. We're going to throw frisbees because you're terrible at frisbees, and it will make you run all over the gym chasing them, tracking them, and catching them. So this is when we are terrible and we explore those messy outer edges of our athleticism. And so in this presentation, you're going to see a lot of stuff that you're going to see stuff that you're used to, I'm sure. But I hope you pay attention, see stuff that you aren't using, like maybe hula hoops. I don't know if you use hula hoops. They're fun just to make fun of people that can't hula hoop. But they're good for, they're fun in hips. But you'll also notice, by the way, messiness. Look how terrible this form is. But they're playing, and I don't care. It's warm-up. This is where we play. Stealing stuff from parkour. Remember, all I have to do is get them warm. And within that, we can play. And so, right now, I know a few of you are thinking, okay, we're playing a game, obviously, that puts people in a plank push-up position. And a lot of you are thinking, and I'm seeing it too. It's annoying me. I'm seeing that their hips are moving a little bit while they're putting their hands up. I'm seeing that shoulders are collapsing in, which is not what I want. I'm seeing that some of them are cheating. Their hips are going up a little bit too high. And I definitely hate when the hips are moving. And trust me, I'm cueing it. I'm giving them little passive cues. But honestly, I don't care. I keep the goal, to get them warm, get them working around their athleticism, get 90% of the benefits of that plank while allowing it to suck 10% in favor of in the pursuit of it being more stimulating and more interesting. Now, and so even things like bad technique in general, I am going to let go. I'm going to let some bad technique pass. And I know that seems crazy, like that girl with a rounded back. And that's because in this environment, playfulness, and that is a bigger priority than perfect technique. In the weight room, where I have athletes that are loaded with 100 kilos, is not the place where I am lax on technique. So don't think that all of this applies to everything we do. But in an unloaded environment, getting them stronger in these just naturally uncompromised positions is me doing my job better, in my opinion. What I care about more is the fact that she's smiling. And the reason for this is that and this is kind of a part that I call how to convince your head coach. And I'm sorry, apologize to everybody who saw this yesterday. Is that when we're trying to accomplish a goal, we can do it one of two ways. And if you were just working with a bunch of volleyball playing robots, then it would be easy. You would not have to have fun, right? You would just say, get warm, we're going to do these things, and they'd put their head down and do the task. In things that are not creative, this is kind of one way you can do that. But the fact is that we work with athletes who at different times need motivation, they need sympathy, they need a hug, they need to be cheered on, they need to be cheered up. These are humans with feelings. And if you ignore that, then, well, you're ignoring what they want, which is to be creative with training. There's a shift in the way we coach. Have you guys seen pictures like this where we go from intrinsic cueing to extrinsic cueing? What this means is that studies have found that it is far more beneficial that athletes will make changes when instead of saying, punch your knee forward, you give them a visual or metaphor to say, hey, imagine there's a plane of glass in front of you and you are, boom, trying to shatter that glass with your knee. That simple extrinsic motivation cues, like pretend that you are jumping over a river that's filled with crocodiles, or pretend that you're in water having to throw the medicine ball out of water. There's millions of examples of great external cues. This is focusing on the human. The reason this works is that we're not talking to robots. If we were talking to robots, you would just code, punch your knee forward. What I'm doing is just, I think, the next iteration of a very human-focused way to do things. This has been a part of monitoring athletes for their readiness, which is to ask them things like, hey, are you mentally alert and focused today? Today, have you laughed? Are you happy? Are you in a good mood? All of these things matter. That it is, I think, a mistake for coaches who think that prioritize all these different parts of what a warm-up should be, and having it not be dull is not something you consider. But it is something that matters. It is absolutely something that matters. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Training load monotony. There are articles written on training monotony and how it can ruin athletes if you're not careful, if you're just making them fall asleep. What it is, and so this is why I manufacture smiles. What it is kind of neuro-linguistic programming when we play. Yeah, I got a good deal on spike ball sets, so I bought a bunch of them. But this is the first time. We only played once or twice a year. This is the first time they'd ever played, but they're pretty good because they're volleyball players. I talked about this a little bit with the group yesterday, but I'll talk about it again today. By the way, I have so many videos of us dancing, because nobody takes videos of just a general day of warm-up, but every time we dance, everybody goes crazy. And all the phones come out. All the coaches' phones come out and everybody takes videos. We don't dance very much, trust me. It's no fun. If you dance all the time, then it stops being a special event. So we probably do it 2 times a year. Or rock, paper, scissors. This will be a good example of, this is when we're at the World Cup and we just need a break. Look at the terrible technique. It's just painful to watch. But that's what I like to see. That's more important when you've been playing 6 games in a row. And so this kind of this team bonding is, and all these things, the importance of play is well established. But what it's doing is programming them before practice even starts to be in a winning mindset. That if you notice, like when we are winning games, there's one thing that is constant, that we are smiling. I mean, we can be losing and just win 1 point and we all smile, right? If you notice during that warm-up, with the dancing warm-up, we're all smiling, right? The other team is across the net doing their stretches, staring at us, being like, oh man, that was fun. Oh man, they're having a good time. So I have a team that hasn't even taken the court yet. They're smiling. In their brains, I'm not making this up. In their brains, I have tricked them into thinking they're already winning this match. Because they're already this team that's smiling and happy and high-fiving. The other team is across the net being like, oh, why isn't our strength coach going to let us do fun shit like that? But this is neuro-linguistic programming. This is the same trick that if I had everybody close their eyes right now, imagine an ice-cold glass of water and a huge lemon stuck in it, and I ask you to put that lemon in your mouth and take a huge bite. If you all did that with me right now, I'd make all your mouths water. Like, I can cause a change in your body with my words, right? If I can affect change just by saying something, I can cause you to salivate. Everybody knows in volleyball, or you can apply this, if you're a basketball player and you have missed your last 6 free throws, everyone in the stadium knows it, you get fouled again, and you go back to the line, you are not the same athlete. You're physiologically different. You are thinking about it, you are tightening up, your shoulders are forward, your heart is racing. If you have made your last 10 free throws in a row, and you are normally a 60% free throw shooter, and you've made your last 10, you're a different person. Your shoulders are back, your heart rate's down, you're smiling, you're like, I got this. You're different physiologically. This tricks you into being in a winning mindset. So it's not just fun for fun's sake. It gives my team an advantage over your team. It's not far off of this, honestly. If you love this but hate my dancing, you've got to justify that to me. And honestly, it just takes people to change things, right? So you might think, I would never go for this. I would never go for what you do, Red. It would never work for me. It's not my personality. And that's fair. But, I remember when golfers would never go to the weight room, and then Tiger Woods became famous for being able to clean 100 kilos, right? And all of a sudden now, all golfers have personal trainers that make them lift heavy. And right now, Novak Djokovic is a guy that absolutely epitomizes play. This is the way he warms up, playing 100 different fun variations on tennis. By the way, this is called kind of differential learning, and we'll talk about it in a second. It's not just play for play's sake. There's a lot of science behind doing things like this. This clip is almost 3 minutes long, and I had to shorten it because these guys play like forever. It's almost over. But you can imagine how good this would be with what this could be doing to expand overall athleticism. Yeah, like I said, it was a long, long rally. And so whenever I get a new team, or every kind of week or so, I'm always trying to remind myself, all right, what's most important to my head coach? This is critical for the initial buy-in, making her problems your problems, blurring the lines between warm-up and practice. If your coach is only giving you like 7 minutes to warm a team up, then it's because you haven't proven that your warm-up is worth more time. And you do that by making your warm-up look more like their practice. We'll talk about that more later. I'll also ask coaches to participate. Like, if I'm watching drills the coaches are doing that night, then I'll try to take that same drill, put it into my warm-up 2 days later, except with a bungee cord, with the girls with their eyes closed, doing it with their opposite hand instead of their dominant hand, etc. I'll put a strength and conditioning twist on the things that my head coach loves, so that I can see what they like to do. And I'll ask them to participate. I'll say, hey, I know you want all of our athletes to be lower on defense. What I was thinking is that I would put them underneath the net, so they have a constraint of the net, and then I'm going to throw medicine balls at them, and I'm going to make them sit there while we throw medicine balls side to side. But I love if they could then come off the court and you hit volleyballs at them for 10 seconds. And now the assistant coaches are helping me in my warm-up. It's volleyball specific, and everybody's happy because we're working on our common problem. The last thing was that I would be asking my coaches, hey, what's most important? But my coach would get annoyed with me if I did that every single day. I'm spending more time just trying to do it on my own. But when I'm out of ideas, I check in and ask. And here's what it looks like. I told you, like I spend, this is what I guess a normal week of me programming warm-ups would look like. This isn't even a week. This is Monday through Thursday. We have 2 practices a day. This is an old warm-up from China. And so I break warm-up down into 3 sections. This would be one warm-up right here. Boom, 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 Monday morning. It would just be kind of a thermogenic circuit to get them warm. A little bit of stretching. I call it strengthen and lengthen because I also push some strength training into all of my stretching. And then something to get them neurally activated, ready for war. But within all of these blocks, I can work on different things. So on a Monday through Thursday, I kind of think I have 21 separate areas to address all the concerns of my coaches. So there's some things that stay the same. Every Thursday is sprint day. I love sprinting. I need the girls to get hyped up for sprint day because we're competing. I put the laser timers out. I have them all ordered by who my fastest girls are, second fastest, third fastest. And how you do that day depends on the order next Thursday. And all the girls are looking to move up into the first group or not be in the last group. So I need them getting excited about Thursdays, being prepared for Thursdays. That stays the same all the time. And then also barefoot days always stay the same because I need them just not having all their shoes and braces on when they come in. So that stuff would stay the same. But after that, I would say, okay, what does my head coach need? Okay, he wants better defensive stuff, so I'll make two neural sessions to be volleyball defensive activation stuff, where it looks like I even have him doing a defensive drill after I've done some K-box lateral pushes and pull-aparts, and this is K-box slow amplitude squats, whatever. But I'm also incorporating, I guess Jamie, the coach, is helping me with some drills in that one. After that, maybe I check in with my physio and he needs me to put things in, so I do that. Then I maybe look and say, you know what, I haven't played with the super bands in a long time, so I'll put that in. Oh, here's some stuff I saw on Instagram, I'll put that in. And I just start then populating a week. And when something works really well, like if my super band drills, which we might do today, if that works really well, maybe I do a little copy paste and I put it for 3 weeks from now, and I say, I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to make this harder, I'm going to make them do this blindfolded, and I'm going to make them do this on one leg. And we'll just take it up a notch, if it works well. And sometimes they don't work well at all, and I just scrap them. But I can kind of populate things that work, things that don't, but I'm always trying to make this an ever-growing and expanding thing. Oh, and you'll notice I don't have foam rolling up there. Foam rolling, great, fine. But it's not worth the time that I have in warm-up. That doing it at the beginning just wastes time. And it's, for every person that loves foam rolling, there's another super smart scientist that thinks it's a placebo-inducing waste of time. It's not. Almost all of my athletes do it before we ever start. So that's why, if you're wondering why you haven't seen it, they do it beforehand or after practice. It's not part of my warm-up. It also gets frustrating because a lot of them will just default to just rolling on their back because it feels the best and not actually doing the things that hurt that would help them the most. So it annoys me that way. Here's the breakdown. Like I said, if I have 20 minutes, we get them warm for 8, do some stretching for 5 and 7 here. You can kind of see this. If I have less time, I just kind of adjust as we go. And if you only get 7 minutes, it's because your coach thinks it's like flossing your teeth. That he thinks that your warm-up comes at the expense of his training time. And it should not be that way. It should be he is stoked about your warm-up and wants you to continue because the drill you just did is as good or better than the one that he created to solve that problem. So, let's get into it. We'll talk about these thermal circuits that might take us to the end, to our first break. And you guys doing okay?
Great.
Yeah? Great. You guys stand up for a second. Stand up for a second. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. Here it is. Pay attention. This will be quick. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. Miss. Do it one more time. All right. 1, 2, 3. No, me. Some of you are not going to get this. 1, 2, 3. No, me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. Miss. Clap. Are we ready to do this all together? I want it to be perfect. Ready. Wow! Everybody was like, oh no, we're awake, we're good. There's like 3 of you in the back that did this the whole time. Alright, try it again. It is. Just wait, listen. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. Miss. Clap. This is your last chance. We can't spend all day. Ready? Go. We'll start together. Ready? I'll give you a countdown. 3, 2. Just a horrible breakdown. Yes, sit down. I hope you all write that down. Try it with your teams. Hopefully they're better than you. Okay, so these are thermogenic circuits. Remember, the only thing I have to do, the bar that I have to clear is just getting them warm. So like, this would just be some examples of circuits that we would do. Like I said, I got some reaction balls. So sometimes we'll play a reaction ball games where you have to be a little bit competitive, but nothing that would get them hurt, hopefully. Yeah. And then, after doing something fun, we can pay our dues. We can then microdose a little bit of strength. And doing something, that's not so fun, as long as I'm pairing it with something that's a little bit more interesting and stimulating, I get away with it. But this is us working on strength. Oh, in the Netherlands, we're lucky to have a weight room right next to us, so we could do Turkish get-ups and stuff. This taught me a lesson that the more time I spend setting something up, the worse it is. That was awful. Never do that again.
Yeah.
We might do something like this today. I brought the super bands. Yeah, I would play other hacky sack games where they have to try to hacky it into the basket to get points. But after we do that, we go and do side planks with clamshells and start learning rolling rope variations for our shoulders. Here we are playing kind of tug of war games with mini bands while we get some single leg stability, while I tell them to hop different directions. Here we are playing with the sticks to try to make some volleyball shapes. We did this yesterday with some of the folks playing Jedi. But, we pair this with just work. The boring 30-second work. I can get away with this if afterward we go and we do something interesting. We use our rolling ropes a lot. It's non-jumping jump rope, where we're also pairing it with strength activities. We'll talk more because the main thing, even though I'm here today talking to you because of the dancing, I keep my job in the Netherlands, in Germany, Netherlands, and China because of the work that we do in warm-up that is more strength-based and more coach-focused. So, more examples of how we microdose strength. Stuff you've seen before, pairing like starfish walks with some glute bridge with sprinter knee because my coach said that we need to be faster in defense, with some of the shoulder exercises that my physio loves, infinity hovers stolen from functional range conditioning, holding a weighted ball in your hitting arm. So it's just a nice 1, 2, 3 pairing that again, it seems like we do a lot of these. But handstands that we start at the beginning of the season holding for 10 seconds and by the end of the season are holding for 45 seconds, getting our shoulders strong. When I have access to dumbbells, we're using dumbbells to do things like Turkish get-ups for warm-up. I really, really like, I love that I don't have to put a lot of abs into my weight training sessions because we do tons of our abdominal core work during warm-ups every day. That putting a lot of these isometric grinds into warm-up is fantastic because they take up way too much time in the weight room and they hurt the flow of a weight room. Shoulder work, something that I learned from a Dutch coach that didn't work out very well. Adductor work. I don't have time for any of this in my weight room, but I have plenty of warm-ups where I can work on it. Knee jumps, some of us did those yesterday. Like I said, abs, where we're resisting shoulders. I don't know if you guys have Nerf guns in your training facilities, but I bring Nerf guns to every team that I work with so that after doing a long crawl, I can reward them with target practice. That's the Chinese swimming team. I'll tell you briefly. So after working with the Chinese women's volleyball team, I was asked to help co-found a sports performance training facility in Shanghai that specialized in training young athletes. So I got an unlimited budget to just design a super cool training facility. And so one of the first things I bought, when we put the turf in, I was like, let's get 14 Nerf guns, 500 bullets, and let's put them on the wall. So that our kids, instead of ever having to do an agility drill where you touch cones, we would never do that. I would just sit a kid here with a dart gun and another kid over there, and I'd be like, okay, you have to tag that kid before he hits you 3 times. And that kid's like, oh my God. And it was so much more fun. It was so much more interesting. It was actually reactive. And it had them talking to their friends the next day, right? We never would test like vertical jump by reaching up and doing the vertec, right, that you all have. No, I just bought a series of Nerf dunk hoops and put them in ever-increasing things. So in my gym, the best thing you could ever do would be able to jam on hoop number 12. And if you did, you got to write your name on the backboard because no kid ever could do it. We had, for our elite athletes, we had trapezes. You guys know, like that our pro athletes had to try to jump up and hang from. So that's the way we did it. We took everything, every boring drill that I didn't like and turned it into something that would be more engaging and more interesting and more sticky and make athletes want to train. Remember that them wanting to come back is a little dial that I feel like not enough coaches are, care about. Oh, I forgot that little rant. The rules of microdosing strength. Of course, you got to do stuff that doesn't need much equipment. You want to pick exercises that are really effective with high reps and low weight. So things like these anterior tibialis raises, they only start feeling tough after you do 30 of them. I would never put that into a weight training program because it would take too long and it just takes the vibe of the weight room down. But it's perfect for warm-up where we're doing something thermogenic, then I can waste time doing that for 30 seconds. Same thing with rotator cuff. It benefits from being done daily instead of weekly. There's a lot of stuff that my physio would love for me to do in the weight room, like holding isometrics, that are benefit from being done all the time, not just the 3 days a week I'm in the weight room. So they go into warm-ups. Same thing with tendinopathies. Or if you need to have a partner. Sometimes I don't have a partner in the weight room, but we can always partner up in the warm-ups. So good to start thinking about the ways that you could address your strength needs here. Another great benefit is that, like, if I know that, so for instance, with my German team, I have not introduced Turkish get-ups to them. For a couple of reasons. I love Turkish get-ups. Athletes hate them. Maybe that's how I haven't done that. But a Turkish get-up, which is that exercise where you go from on your back to about holding a dumbbell above your head, it puts your shoulder in a bunch of good positions. If I know I want to do that in weight training next month, then I put it into warm-up a couple of times before that, just doing, like, maybe for barefoot day, I'd have them balancing a shoe. And we would just be working on the technique. So that when they see it in the weight room, on their schedule for the weight room, I don't have to sit over it the whole time being like, no, push off your leg and roll with your hips. No, just, they already know how to do it. And I'm like, grab heavy weights day one and rip it. And so I use it to pre-teach things. Same thing with like dumbbell snatches. We'll do those in warm-ups 5 times before we go on the road and maybe have to do it in a hotel weight room because they don't have barbells. So I'll put light dumbbell snatches in my warm-ups just in case we go to a bad weight room when we're traveling and I have to get a power exercise done with 20 kilo dumbbells. So I pre-teach with that. It's a great spot to also do barefoot strength. I mentioned that a little bit, barefoot stuff. We're always barefoot in the, oh boy, why did that play? I think it was maybe supposed to, hold on. Go back. Go back. Try not to look at that slide. Is that going to start? Okay, maybe not. Imagine a lot of people doing some great barefoot work, right? Fascinating. Right now they're all, and even these 2 girls aren't even barefoot, so it's hard for you to imagine, isn't it? Okay. I'll try one more time. That was enough, right? So, like anything, this could be a good place to stop. Like my weight training, I also periodize the stuff I'm doing in the weight room. In warm-ups. So that at the beginning of a season, in preseason, that's where a lot of the barefoot strength goes. The weight room teaching stuff I just talked about, our out of alignment strength stuff that we work, where we work on us being strong in compromised positions. That's a big part of microdosing, I should have mentioned. I'll really quickly say that. So in my old age, I used to never allow anything with rounded backs. Now I'll allow it just for the sake of fun, like we already talked about, but also it's essential for my sport. We spend a lot of time like this. I mean, there's times you have to lift your suitcase into a taxi and you have to round your back, right? And if I haven't prepared them for weight in this compromised position, then I'm not being a good strength coach. Well, so it's in warm-ups that we will do progressively heavier and heavier, things like Jefferson curls, or valgus knee squats, or walking on the outsides of our ankles, like where I'm working on these out of alignment strength. I pour all that into the beginning, especially the beginning of season, so that when my athletes land on the outside of their ankle or with their knees caving in, it's the 1,000,000th time they've done it. And they've done it in a controlled environment where nobody gets hurt, they're stronger, they're more bulletproof. That's good for warm-ups. All right, but we don't do a lot of that at the end of the season. By the end of the season, we're doing more reaction time stuff, advanced plyometrics. Our sprints go from 10 meter at the beginning of the season to 20 meter to 30 meter at the end of the season. That we periodize all of this. Way more individual exercises at the end of the season than at the beginning. It follows a very similar trajectory as regular. And I'm thinking this is a perfect place to break, right? Because, yeah, this is a great place to break. Are you guys good? Yeah. All right, good.